What's up guys, welcome to Wasted Space, and we're back in Space Engineers, and today I want to kind of talk about two different subjects. First of all, I've got what I built for this video, and then at the end I want to talk a little bit about the channel's future and where we're headed, because this has been quite a quiet week for content for me, and I want to, reassure people a bit and let you know what my plans are. So I'll start off with the design side of things and what we've built for today, and the thinking with this one was for some sort of frontier base. So not designed to move, but designed to be placed in a location where you want to really deny an area to whoever it may be, but also you may need to mine in reasonably hostile territory, something along those lines. So you want a base that's going to keep you intact for while you're doing that. Now, the other sort of flip side to this was also I wanted to make something that was capable of surviving some of the weapons that I've made myself, so things like the Death Lotus. So that was my thinking, and if I just give you a tour around, I'm going to do most of the demonstration in this video using clips I've pre-recorded, because obviously I can't be manning this base and also manning the ship that's coming in at the same time. But the ethos here was for sort of three things. Firstly, very good lines of fire for everything that's on it, and everything that's on it will have very close or very strict priorities as to what it can shoot thanks to the recent turret changes. The second one was it needs to have a redundancy. So everything in here needs to have backups for if it fails or if it gets shot out, and conveyor systems can't break, that sort of idea. And that's obviously exactly what we've got here. And the third thing was to try and use the Death Lotus's own trick against it a little. So if I give you a quick tour of the insides, and then I can show you that trick in action. Everything here is at least 2 layers of heavy armor deep, and more importantly, when we go into here, this sort of central area is pretty much a I don't know, this is your main safe zone, this is your panic room, and so this is actually surrounded by a single layer of empty space, now which I've spoken about in the past, helps versus some types of attack. Now you can see this goes the entire way around that sort of central room, and this will help quite a lot against attacks that are using missiles, sort of kinetic weaponry, but won't help in the slightest against explosives. And then in here, obviously we've got the main panic room, which is where our gravity shield is, all the timers and a bit of backup power, and then both up and down we have two identical rooms that look like this one, if I can get through the door, which have cargo, reactors, refineries, assemblers, med bays, and a control station, and these are duplicated, so there's one on the top, one on the bottom. Idea being, even if one entire side gets taken off of this craft, or this station, it's going to survive. So that's kind of the internal layout is not particularly interesting, other than obviously having a lot of this redundancy. And then we've got a couple of hangars either side, and then these rooms, they're currently empty. I'm not entirely sure what I want to do with them, but there's possible there for either more redundancy or more hangars, or an area to be building ships in, perhaps crew quarters, whatever you like. But the final part is obviously alongside these turrets having specific setups as to what they're going to target. So the Gatlings will not be doing a huge amount of shooting at enemy ships, but they'll be doing quite a lot of shooting at missiles, incoming warheads, that sort of idea, whereas the missile launchers will be doing the shooting at the ships and not at the missiles and the warheads. It's nice that we've now got that functionality. As you can see, we've also got some projector-based stuff around the side here, so I should just be able to hit one to kick things off and start going. And the thinking here was to try and use the Death Lotus's own sort of trick against it, and unfortunately I've got into the wrong cockpit quite clearly, so I'll start it manually myself. So we can start that off. Everything's going to start spinning and start creating a big field of essentially debris around this station. There's 4 of these on, and they shoot out, so there's a couple of axes that aren't quite as well covered as the others. But you'll very quickly get the idea that this does not take very long to put quite a lot of debris in the way of incoming craft, and that could result in collisions. These have also got, as I'm sure you've noticed, decoys on them to distract any turrets on enemy ships. But the final thinking was, and this is the specific Death Lotus part, this can also, it floods the area with more warheads. And because the Death Lotus has already flooded the area with loads of warheads, this actually helps trigger big chain explosions in the Death Lotus's warhead field. Which led me to think a little bit about whether or not these should actually have sensors on them, timers, something to make them explode as they went out. But of course that would require power and all sorts of other materials to create them. Because of course what's on here at the moment, the decoy block and the warheads, neither of those require power to function. So that's kind of the idea of this, and as you can see it's now spread itself out into a reasonably sizable field. And I'll be switching constantly back and forth between sort of pre-recorded clips in this, because I did a whole bunch of testing with my brother on this thing earlier, and I can tell you that while it will not necessarily leave every fight unscathed, it is very, very, very difficult to penetrate into this thing in such a way that it is disabled and the guy in the very centre is in any way in danger. There are some sort of very high penetration weapons that can do that, but a lot of the time they end up getting beaten the hell out of just trying to get in here. So that was kind of the concept behind this. It's not the most groundbreaking idea. It doesn't look that great, and that's partly because of the angles of fire thing I mentioned. You know, you want to, all these turrets have very good lines of fire. They can shoot a long way around, and that's partly why it's a very boring design. I could sort of put lots of interesting design bits on it, but they get in the way of its effectiveness. So now moving on to the channel for a second and what my plans are for the future of that, which of course is I want to get you guys involved in this, because you guys are so much a part of those plans and have so much a part of being in the position I am now. So firstly, Space Engineers is going nowhere. That is going to continue on the usual days. The NGC will be making a reappearance soon, but a lot of people have been asking about that. It's not going to make an appearance on its own. There will be an NGC V2, and I'm going to start it already. The NGC itself has got so massive and bloated, it's actually become quite hard to do any further work on it. And it's very much not what I originally intended it to be. It was supposed to be a super advanced sort of demonstration of how you could use clever techniques in order to make something that was an all-in-one ship. Instead, what it became was pretty much an example of the old guard of thinking, let's make something bloody enormous, and that would be great. And it isn't, so I will keep both going. The NGC will not end here. I am going to work on it, but expect its successor to already start. I've also got, of course, a couple of other bits I need to finish up as far as Space Engineers is concerned. I'd really like to get the viewer challenges back going, because it hasn't been one of those for ages. And there's a whole bunch of version 2s of things that I need to finish off, like the Hunter Seeker and my Projector Bay, all that sort of stuff. Alongside that, I'm also going to try and be sort of just generally upping the amount of content on the channel all round. I'm absolutely loving this, and I really want to get to the point where, honestly, I can do this full time. You know, I would love to be able to do this full time, and the only way I'm going to get there, I think, is by producing more stuff for you to watch, and then you guys tell me or not whether or not it's any good, whether you want to watch that stuff. So, for example, Darkest Dungeon has not gone. That will be back. That's just a byproduct of how busy I've been over the last couple of weeks. But on top of that, I will probably be bringing back Faster Than Light. A few people have probably seen that I had an old Faster Than Light's Let's Play series. I really like that game. I wouldn't mind playing a bit more of it, see what you guys think of that. And again, people have mentioned that it would be quite cool to see that back again. And then on top of that, I really want to introduce a couple of bits to make the channel less about just Space Engineers and Medieval Engineers. I should mention, Medieval Engineers isn't gone. I'm just struggling a bit to have a proper affinity with it and come up with something I think is really cool and not just, you know, fairly run-of-the-mill creations. So until I can come up with something really cool, I'm kind of keeping quiet. I don't want to do the whole Here's Anne Castle thing, because that's kind of dull, if I'm honest. So something will come along those lines. The other things I'm wanting to do, I mentioned a Q&A video a couple of weeks ago. That's still in the works. Thank you very much for the questions I got for that. And I actually really want to try and make that kind of a monthly sort of thing where, you know, essentially we can just sit down. I can answer any questions people have about specific builds, about me, about games, about the gaming industry, about whatever. And I think it would be a good opportunity to, well, A, make sure that I answer what you guys are interested in, make sure that, you know, you guys can throw out questions about builds and I get an opportunity to air the answers directly. But also, you know, a chance to tell you a bit more about me as a person and what I get up to aside from building in Space Engineers, because that's pretty much all you guys have seen of me so far. And sort of on the back of that, I also am fortunate enough to not only be an avid airsofter, but also have access and frequently get to go and play on military bases. So assuming that I can sort of work out, because there are some restrictions regarding what I can film on a military base, but assuming that I can work those out, I'd also really like to bring a bit of sort of airsoft content to the channel if you guys might be interested in that. And I'm talking proper squad play in organised games, and sort of talking a bit about why we're doing what we're doing, what the advantage of the site we're at is, you know, just generally talking about the thought process and what's going on. A bit of live commentary sort of style, that idea. So that's kind of my plans for where the channel's headed at the moment. We're going to get more content out. I'm going to try and really focus on this because honestly, I want to be doing this for a living, guys. I'm loving it. I'm loving all the support you guys give me. So the only way I can think of doing that is to just pump out the content, get you guys telling me what it is you like, what it is you don't like, and just revise from there. So, bit of a weird video, 2 parts, and bit of a weird concept for today as well. It's not the most advanced thing, it's not even the most pretty thing. The design, by the way, was intentional. It needs to be like that to give good lines of fire, so I intentionally didn't pretty it up. But there you go, it is what it is. A little bit about the channel as well. Please let me know what you think about all of that. I'd be really interested to hear your opinion because, of course, it's you guys that are watching it. You guys are the ones I'm doing this for. You guys are the guys that, honestly, I really love for all the support you're giving me. So I really want to know what it is that you guys want to see and what it is that you guys are enjoying. So thanks a lot, guys. Really appreciate watching. As usual, please hit like, please hit subscribe. Really helps me and the channel out. And otherwise, I will catch you next time.